What's going on YouTube? My name is Simon Snipe and welcome to another guide video. Today I'm going to go through an updated, in-depth look at how you can consistently and safely maximize your score potential for guild co-op bosses. Let's get into it. If you are not already familiar with the guild co-op boss content, I will leave a link to the previous introduction video in the description below and also in this little corner right here. If you are, we will first look at the squad used for the boss. While you're at it, do hit the like and subscribe button for more variety content. As of the release of this video, both Monet and John Mason are already available, which opens up the potential for a perma-silence, preventing the boss from casting its ultimate. However, due to the inconsistency of buffs your guild may be collecting for various seasons, there are generally two ways you can set up your team to improve the survivability of all your important units. Also, the following guide is based on the assumption that you are going up against a phase 6 or 7 boss with its increased damage will have a higher risk of a failed run. Units that die in the boss battle cannot be redeployed. One thing to note beforehand is that the footages used in this video are for conceptual purposes and does not represent the actual phase 6 and 7 boss because I'm dumb and I lost those footages. We will begin with the squad, which includes both Monet and John Mason. In case you are not familiar with Monet, she is an SR defender who applies a silence and taunt debuff on the enemy during every 4th attack animation for exactly 4 seconds. John Mason, on the other hand, has a special skill which also silences the boss for 8 seconds with a cooldown time of 20 seconds by default. Both their skills allow you to potentially disable the boss from using its ultimate skill permanently. The drawback from this is that if you fail to permanently silence the boss, it will force the boss to initiate its secondary ultimate skill, which pushes all your units to your ship, stunning and damaging all ground units while it burrows its way towards you. This will immensely decrease your total damage output and mostly kill a lot of units, so bear that in mind. In this guide video, we will only be covering the first 10 units specifically due to the fact that past that point, it heavily depends on what buffs are collected for the arenas and what units you have invested in as your main damage dealers. The first 5 units are very simple. You want to always deploy Monet, Linxian, and then 3 healers, namely Harim, Chinatsu, and Evelyn. At this point, the boss would have summoned some ads heading towards your ship, so immediately deploy Awaken Lee Suyon on the left. Once the left is secured, you want to start to build up a DPS rotation on the right. For those whose Awaken Lee Suyon isn't strong enough to deal with the ads on the left, you can always drop Awaken Yuna or Rosaria on the left side to provide support. The follow-up sequence I would recommend after the first 5 units would be John Mason into your first DPS, and then Chifuyu, and then your second DPS or Sigma. For Sigma specifically, you want to only deploy her when either the boss's special skill is below 20 to 30% ready or has just been casted, because Sigma is just not tanky enough to survive the Saw Blade. From this point on, a general rule of thumb would be to drop a DPS and a debuffer unit until all units are deployed. If you no longer have any DPS built, just continue to drop your buffers like Hilde and Shinja or more debuffers like Doma. For most cases, you may only have time to trigger your operator once, so be sure to time it together or close to the deployment of Soyun near the end of the fight for the needed damage boost. Another tip for any of the units that comes after the first 10 is that you want to have all the types of buffing units or debuffing units in there, and you want to reduce the amount, or in fact don't even use any more further defenders if let's say they don't provide any form of debuff. In the event that you do not have both Monet and John Mason, there is a little tweak in the sequence that you need to make. The first 5 units will remain the same, however following up you do not want to drop Awaken Lee So-yun, but instead you want to use Awaken Yuna or Rosaria on the left side. Once the boss uses its ultimate skill for the very first time, drop Awaken Lee Suyon on the left side to assist Rayleigh if you used Yuna or Rosaria if you did use Rosaria. What comes after is the same as the previously mentioned strategy where you just follow up with your DPS rotation on the right. Now that we've got the team setting out of the way, let's quickly run through the gears, ship and operator for this particular mode. You want your best cooldown reduction gear on Linsin so that you can cycle out units as quickly as possible. The quicker you deploy them, the longer they stay in the field, the more they can do. You want to focus on the substats on your DPS units. Although Mace CDR sets won't go wrong, but most of us have limited sets. So for DPS units, the best stat you want are anti-ground damage, and then skill haste, and then crit damage. You want Monet to use an attack speed set with defensive substats, for example damage resistance substats, melee damage resistance or range damage resistance or anti-ground damage resistance. And all your healers should have at least 30% cooldown reduction for a safer run. You can do it without 30% cooldown reduction, but it's very risky because your healers will not be casting enough skills to keep the entire team healthy and alive. The operator I'd recommend would be Lina or Mark Finlay, only because the active skills benefit the majority of your DPS units in general. If you do not have either of those, any operator with the crit damage passive also works. Unless you have experienced a situation where your first 5 units die near the beginning all the time, you shouldn't need to use a defensive ship like Lake Superior or Gleipnir Armor. Instead, Enterprise is your best friend. Your alternative choices would be Kami Izumi and New Detroit. And that's all for this guide video. I hope you managed to find it useful and maybe see some improvements on your own Guild Boss runs. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please leave it in the comment section below as well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!